We used mostly it was the red one MX, like the original red. You should have seen this thing. It was like a freaking tank carrying it around.
But like a lot of the stuff where Kane's talking in the studio, a lot of that was the Scarlet, and then all the slow-mo stuff like in the forest scenes or in the burned areas or the park and all that, that was shot on the red Epic.
Yeah.
So it was all red cameras.
The actual interviews is not DSLR, it's a Scarlet.
No, it's actually the red.
This is 4K. I mean, like this thing can go full theatrical.
Yeah, we have a
size.
DCP that can go to the theaters, and we have. That's how we did our world premiere in London, and that's how we're doing our LA premiere.
Yeah, and also, and honestly, but at the end of the day, really, what matters to get is lighting is really key, and having someone who knows how to work the camera. Our DP was really good. Like the interviews you saw with like Robert Englund, that was done in some back room at Walker Stalker Con in Atlanta. We had, I think, 2 or 3 lights. That's it. Yeah. But he knows what he's doing with it, so he was able to make it look really good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't think this is one of the best questions either, but this is kind of real thing because even though I do jobs where I do events and do usher and security, I've done other things that did my totem, like it's YouTube or acting myself. One thing I will ask, how hard was it for you to get permission to use those movie clips from the other movies like Cash, like Friday the 13th? How hard was it to really get those clips without worrying about copyrights?
So some of them were really easy because like Adam Green, he's just like use whatever, you know. But other than that, you use a lot of stuff like fair use. I'm an entertainment attorney, so securing the rights and stuff like that, you know, you just have a good attorney. You know, not to toot my own horn, but.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How did you guys get started in making movies?
Well, I'm an entertainment attorney, so I've seen clients, you know, make their own films for a number of years. Derek brought this project to me and said, you know, I've got this idea. I want to do this thing on Kane. You know, let's make it happen. And I said, oh, great. You know, I got involved in it, but maybe you want to speak a little bit about how you.
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 3.5, and I literally haven't wavered on that once in my entire life. So I knew I went to film school. I wanted to do this. I worked in various capacities, including directing segments in several documentaries and other films, but then I got the chance to, I said to Andrew I want to do my feature debut and make a documentary. I was looking around at various stories, found Kane's book and other interview clips like from conventions and other appearances, and saw that he is a great storyteller, could speak well, read the book. He has a great story not only for horror people, but also human interest people. So I knew that it was a good story, and when I showed it to Andrew, he agreed.
I'll give it a take.
Awesome.
I'll give it a take.
This is a kind of side
Sure.
YouTube channel. You look really familiar.
No, I get that you look familiar a lot, though.
There's another film attorney who has a YouTube channel. It's dead on.
Really?
I know what you're talking about. The H3 scandal.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to look at that then. Is I get people always like, oh, you look familiar, and I have absolutely no idea. I'm like,
I usually say, I used to do porn.
there you go. I'm going to do that one now. That's actually really good. I like that.
Yeah, you're welcome to use that.
So another thing maybe to mention about this, so the end song you heard there is actually the band Twisted. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're like one of those ICP type bands.
This is a song they wrote that's now Kane's official theme song. It's called More Than a Monster. And they wrote it just for
the documentary. The music also is an original score done by a close friend of mine, Jonas Friedman. He's done the music for the new X-Files series, the new 24, Blue Bloods, all of that. So the music score was that as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I am a special effects artist, and I have known for quite a long time that I wanted to be a special effects artist. And I got some help from my aunt to be able to go to Tom Savini's school and learn how to do special effects.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're going to learn, why not learn from one of the best, you know?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions for? Oh yeah.
How long did the whole process take of making the doc?
So I think once we went into production, it's been about 2.5 years.
It's been 2.5 years of production. Honestly, most likely until it's released, it'll be about 3 years since I brought the idea to him and we started that process.
Yeah, it's a really long process because originally we sit down. The interviews you saw with Kane, we had about 39 hours of interviews with Kane. So that's a lot of footage to get, but he talks so well and he tells such great stories that we just knew we had to capture all of it. And then a lot of the story kept expanding. Originally we thought, oh, we'll just do interviews with Kane, some of the celebrities, and it'll be done. But as an example, the burn unit, we had reached out to them and said, hey, we're interested in filming there, maybe having Kane go back because he's never seen it. Is this something you'd be interested in? And they said, not only can you come back, but we were actually transferring all of our patients to the new burn center. So you get the entire floor. There's a 3-day window where no one is in that center. You can use that. And we said, that's incredible. Like, no one's ever filmed there since, and obviously won't because they're knocking part of it down. But we got the opportunity to do that, and you have to jump at something like that. So that's the best thing I can say about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the scope expands in these things, and more celebrities want to be a part of it because they love Kane so much. And we were just saying that earlier in the interview that we literally got met with like almost 0% pushback from these celebrities. They actually move their schedules around a lot of times to accommodate us, and that says a lot for how much respect they have for Kane, that they're willing to do that. It's easy enough to say you're busy.
My grandpa taught me that all you've got to do is ask, because what's the worst they're going to say, no?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what you have to go into with this type of thing. So,
yes.
Absolutely amazing documentary.
Thank you.
When you started out, did you think that it was going to become such an emotional journey, I guess? Because it's a deeply personal experience.
Well, when I started out wanting to make a film in the horror, like documentary, I wanted to make a fun pop culture doc originally, and then I found this story and knew it had an even bigger appeal. So I knew there were going to be moments. I did not know how much it was going to affect people. We've had people talk about how it's helped save their marriages, how it's helped them, deal with bullying incidents in their past, to talk about their own burn issues, things like that. That I never thought we'd hear some of the stories we've heard.
Also, on a personal level, I mean, when we shot Kane telling that story about when he actually got burned, he said, "I only want to tell this story one time. I don't want to do it multiple times. I'm going to tell it straight through." And it was really difficult because he's getting emotional, and obviously us there hearing this are becoming emotional too, but we can't make any noise because it's going to get picked up on the microphone. So we're all just kind of having to quietly, dry our tears and stuff. But one of the things I think that stuck with me the most is, for us personally, at least me, going to the burn unit, I didn't know how I would handle seeing people, having now known what Kane went through. There was a lot of anxiety, I think, for everyone built up to actually getting there. That once we actually got in the unit, I think a little bit went away, but it's tough to see these people that are burned. I mean, some of them it's not, I don't want to say as bad, but it's still bad. They'll have just an arm burned, which is bad. I would never want to go through that, but there are other people who it's, their whole body's done. One of the things that we actually didn't put in the documentary, and I think we forgot to tell Kane until recently, when we went to the burn unit, the woman Paula, the one woman we interviewed, the nurse there, she's the director of the burn unit, was able to actually find all of Kane's old files, and she had his intake form there. And it was interesting because Kane saw it and he goes, "Oh my God, that's my old address. Oh, that's crazy, whatever." And he left, and then I was really sitting down and looking at it, and I looked at the date of the burn, and I said to Derek, I'm like, "This doesn't look like the right burn date, does it to you?" And he said, "No, it doesn't." And what we realized is the doctor that had treated him lied on the intake form and said that Kane had only been burned a week before he brought him to the hospital to cover his butt. And nowadays, we all know, lawyers and lawsuits and all that kind of stuff, it would have been done differently. But the guy was covering himself, for a very long time because he knew what he did, and he, even with this new hospital, was lying about, what had happened. So that was kind of shocking to see. And that didn't make it in the film because we didn't find out about that until we were sitting there looking at the forms. So.
Yes.
Just curious, in a candid sense, away from convention floors, what was Bruce Campbell like?
He's very
funny.
But he's nice on convention floors.
So here's the thing: when he showed up, our lights and stuff weren't ready. So he just kind of sat down. He was a quiet guy. He was very quiet. He got in front of the camera. He kind of opened up more, or whatever. He certainly seemed like a nice guy. We didn't get a chance to really talk with him much off camera.
He seemed very excited to do the interview for Kane.
For Kane, yeah.
I think a lot of times he was you know, a lot of the actors, they tend to conserve energy when they're not
Just kinda shut
They
down
knew
all
they
the
were
time.
doing an interview, so it was like.
Well, it's also difficult too because you never know. Like Cassandra is a great example of this, right? She had done an entire, I think, convention,
Yeah,
right?
she did a convention
Announced
announcing
Not
her
Scary.
Not Scary Farm
Yep.
show in
Drove
California.
through traffic in LA, across LA in rush hour to come do the interview, and then sat down and did the interview with us, and then had to literally, I think she had to get on a flight to go.
Yeah,
to
she
her
was
mother's or
leaving
something.
to go home to grab her luggage to then drive through LA traffic again to get on a plane to go to her mother's for a month or 2 weeks or something, and then
Yeah.
fly back and start rehearsals for Not.
So it's difficult, you know, when they're taking their time out of their schedule. The fact that they're doing this, and you know, it's sometimes you don't always want to judge. And I say this to everyone when they meet celebrities. You don't necessarily want to judge them based on how they're acting right then, because you don't know what happened just prior to them or what they have to do just after it. And their schedules are absolutely crazy. Now, there's some people who you can meet, you know, immediately. Like they're like this all the time. But others, it's you know, you never know. It's a lot of energy to do these conventions in particular. So
And Robert, when we interviewed him at Walker Stalker, he had, I think his manager told 20 minutes. We have 20 minutes with Robert. He talked for
like an hour.
like an hour and
Yeah,
15
something
hours.
like that.
Because as you guys know who have met him, he likes to talk. And he had a lot of stories to share and a lot of great insights, so it was like, we don't mind.
Yeah, as
Your
long as you
manager might
know.
not.
And then he noticed all the missed phone calls because they're like, your line's out the door. What are you doing? You got to get back here. So
We've
but-
had people lining up for an hour now, and he was like, I'm going to go grab a bite to eat, then I'll get back to that. It's like, I got him on the cart. I got him back to where he's
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
How difficult was it to get some of that old footage, including obviously his school play, etc.?
So one of the things that was difficult about this film is, as Kane mentions in this, you know, he has the PTSD, so a lot of the old pictures and stuff he got rid of because he didn't physically want those. Same thing, he moved a couple times, so he doesn't have a lot of friends from back then that he still talks to now. I don't even know how he came across
Okay,
that
well,
footage.
this is funny. A girl that Kane went to school with on Quadrant had sent him a copy, like transferred on VHS or something. I think he said Betamax, actually, years before. This was reel-to-reel video. This was like the first camcorder you could buy that literally, like the audio reel-to-reel. That's what I got in the mail, was 2 of those, and I had to find the only company in the entire US that does it, which is located about an hour outside of Chicago. I had to ship these boxes over to them. They usually took like 3 weeks. They did for us in a week. Shipped it back on a flash drive, but like it was nuts to get it. And then we didn't know when we paid the money to this one company if there was anything on it, if it was even usable.
Yeah,
because
you
this
can't
stuff
watch it. It's
apparently
like, what are we going to do? How are you
deteriorates
going to pay? You
pretty
know?
quickly. But apparently this was kept in mint condition.
The photos for when Kane actually got burned, what we did is I actually was able to locate the photographer, and I asked her for permission to use them. She said, look, you know, I was working for a newspaper at the time, they would have it, contacted them, they had been bought out by a big conglomerate, it's this whole legal thing to get through. We ended up with those 3 photos. What was odd is we did ask her if she wanted to do an interview. And she talked to me multiple times on the phone to get the pictures, but when it came time to actually do the interview, she stopped returning phone calls. And we even said, you know, Kane says it in the film, he doesn't blame her at all. I told her, we're not blaming you at all, we'll even send you your interview to make sure you're not coming across bad, but she just, I don't know the reason. She decided that she didn't want to participate in it. So I really don't know why, but you know, unfortunately we weren't able to get her in it. But
Yeah, because it would have been nice to have the flip side, obviously, to hear from her. Obviously, she didn't know anything was going wrong.
Right.
So, but it would have been nice to see, like, you know, hear her talk about how she saw this happen, get the other side, because that's the only other person who was there when it happened. But you know, there's a lot of things in docs you hope for, and then there's a lot that like magically happens and things that end up working out well.
yeah, and I hope at least, you know, for all of you, I know everyone in here is a horror fan too, but there's so much more to Kane's story that, you know, we hope came across, and we've been hearing from people that they identified with that.
Drew tears into my eyes.
I've seen it like I can't even tell you how many times, and it still gets me every time I watch it.
I mean, you know, whether it is the MS that I have or just the fact that it was really touching footage or movie, and I want to take my mom to see it.
Yeah.
Because she's not a horror fan at all.
I actually, as a test for this, I showed it to my grandfather. He's like 85 years old. Super, super conservative guy, and he watched it. And he goes, the movie was so great, so fantastic. He goes, but there's a lot of foul language. Are you sure people are going to watch this? And I was like, he ripped someone's head off in this, and you're worried about him using the F word? Like, okay, that's fine. But I'm like, I think horror fans will like it either way. So.
Is the movie going to get a theater run?
You know, that's interesting. We're right now we're doing film festivals. And it's going to be in Brooklyn. It's going to be in Los Angeles. We're going to see what the distributor that we end up signing with.
There's
wants
also
to do.
several theater independents that have reached out to us about potentially
Right.
doing screenings. That like if we could turn into like one of these things like Adam Green's doing, where we go and we do merchandise and stuff like that, and they're willing to, we might consider that as soon as we want to wait until the movie's out.
Right.
Do a
Documentaries are
screening.
tough too, because a lot of
Right.
people hear documentary, they think boring, and it's like, well, this is, you know,
Yeah.
a little different. You know,
Not
this documentary is a little different because it's the horror, it's the human interest, it's entertaining because Kane's in all these different films, but
I
you know,
agree.
at least in my opinion.
I think it should be. I like the idea of doing more theatrical screenings because I think it comes. This screen wasn't perfectly ideal, but hopefully it came across in that on a big theatrical screen, it really like looks and sound like we do a 5.1 surround mix, like it envelopes you in the movie.
Yeah.
And that was the point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you guys spend more than one day at the hospital when you guys went?
We only two.
We did 2 days.
We had 2 days. They
Yeah.
were 2 half days because it was intense and
Yeah, we didn't want to do 2 full days. Like, when we did the interviews with Kane, like in the studio, they were like 12-hour days of interviews, like just straight him talk. I actually don't know how his voice didn't give out, honestly, because he was talking for like at least 10 of those hours. For the hospital, we were able to get 2 days there, but we did half days. One day we mostly did in the old unit, and then part of the other day we went to the new unit with the escorts that they gave us because they didn't want us just wandering around the hospital randomly. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Sure,
I just
sure.
realized it. One on the production side. How about the research? How long did the research take to finalize all that together? You know, not just the interviews, but as far as like, okay, we got to get to this, Mervyn Benson unit. We got to get this clip in here. We got to do this. How long did it take to funnel all that together? And the second one, if you do get a chance to release it on, DVD,
it will be for sure. But
have you thought about like going to like specific stores, like because I know a lot of business productions, like these are silly one, Doe, they put their stuff like New Day decided to put their stuff just on FYE, and it's been selling phenomenally well because I was working with it at the time. Have you thought about doing that kind of route as well, going to specific stores because you know they'll sell well?
yeah, well, what we're really looking to do is have a distributor that kind of handles all of that. We could do the self-distribution route. We could individually contact people and stuff. But
And that's an option we're considering. It's just a matter of we have a bunch of people we're talking to right now, so that's definitely an option. I like the idea of getting it out there.
what was
They're
that?
kicking us out?
Oh, they're kicking us out. What's Kane's ETA? Were you able to find out?
Kane is getting kicked out as well.
He's getting kicked out as well.
Oh, I guess they have some.
They're kicking everyone out. They're like 4 o'clock. Start paying by the minute.
We have to get all our stuff.
Yeah. We'll have to wrap it up. But
Which one?
All right. What questions do you think?
You guys want to do fast trivia?
Oh,
yeah, bring it. We'll do a trivia quickly.
sweet.
All right, we'll go easy. Well, not that easy, but
You have to stand far enough.
what was the name of the island Kane grew up on?
Quad, yeah.
There you go.
A minute ago.
There you go. You get that one. Think of something more complicated because you know this pretty well.
All right. Let me think. All right. All right. Who was Kane trying to scare in the woods in Friday the 13th, Part 7?
The local sheriff.
All right.
A lot of cameras.
All right. So I'll give a tough one then.
I thought that was pretty tough. They were paying attention.
What was the name of the film Kane did his first fire stunt in after he had been burned?
I remember The Porch.
How about his first movie?
House?
The one where he was an extra in.
No, that was the first time he did stunt work.
The one with.
California Split?
Yes.
Awesome.
The other was Avenging Force.
Avenging Force was the first burn.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you guys for all the
Yeah, thank you
support.
for coming and
Thank
seeing
you.
it.
It was great.
And if you guys didn't sign up for our mailing list, go to kanehoddermovie.com. Sign up. We'll keep you guys posted.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
We're
thank you
gonna
for coming
ask
to see
for better fans. Thank you.